Hi, du wunderst dich vielleicht gleich im Anschluss, wenn wir auf Englisch weiterreden. Deswegen schon mal hier der Heads up. Die heutige Folge wird auf Englisch gehalten.
Okay, we have those resources. What do we do? How do we go from here to actually a cloud that looks like people go on Google Cloud, they click, they got the service.
ITCS Pizza Time Podcast. Cheesy questions and juicy answers for the tech community.
Hi and welcome back to today's episode of the ITCS Pizza Time Tech Podcast. I'm glad to have Red Boumghar back again here in the studio in Frankfurt. He is the founder and CEO of Parametry.ai, and he was here already a year before, in 2024. And I'm happy to see you here again. Before we start and talk a bit about today's topic, just introduce yourself to those who haven't listened to the first episode or don't know you.
Thank you, guys. I'm always happy to be here. I could say always. This is the second time. So my name is Red Boumghar. I'm actually a European institution troublemaker with my own startup, I would say. So I worked at the European Space Agency as a data scientist. I worked a bit at NASA for a short while, just on the AI accelerator. And I worked at the European Central Bank. And that's where I actually lived my life to actually get motivated to do what we do today. Yeah, I'll tell you later, I guess.
Sure. We will head back to that. Maybe comparison to last year. Has your favorite pizza changed?
I guess it did. It did. Recently, actually. I went to Sachsenhausen. There's a super nice restaurant in Frankfurt, which is very small. So you don't bring 5 friends there, maybe 3 or 4 max.
What's it called?
And I don't remember. It's Pizza Mystery, a mystery of pizza.
Okay, I'm not that familiar. I just wanted to know it so I can try it out.
Yeah, it sounds like that, mystery pizza. And there's a pizza on the menu. The first one is called the fancy pizza. Mamma mia, this is good. You have everything on it.
Everything?
Yeah, everything you would like, I guess. At least for me. I mean, mushrooms, you have salad, you have 2 kinds of salad, a bit of spinach, gota, and you have this burrata in the middle, which you can spread. And
sounds quite good.
Yeah.
Sounds quite good.
It's delicious.
Perfect. Because last year, if I remember correctly, you were more into quattro formaggi?
Yeah, this kind of things, like classical.
Yeah, sure.
Exact.
It's always good, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start right into the episode. As I said, you were here a year ago. So what has changed since then with Parametry.ai? And what were your biggest achievements since then?
So we are slowly growing. So I had to take the realization of that. So a few months ago, a few months ago, I was like, okay, what's happening? Like, who is working for or with Parametry? So I just made a big graph with the different topics we have, and I realized we're 16 people now. So
16?
Yeah, 16.
Nice.
16 people, mostly contributors, what I call contributors. One big half of our project is actually fully open source, and the other part is half open source. So it's not really what people in open source hardcore communities would call open source. So we have an open source client, so people can audit what they're doing, but they're using our API, which is a private API. But this is always nice because people can, work around open source. So 16 people working on the things that we do. That's really good.
How many were you last year around?
5.
5, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
That's some kind of growth, yeah. We actually stay around the 10 people mark, a bit more now. So I believe we are 13 at the moment.
Oh, nice.
But slowly but steady.
Very good.
Cool. So what would you say was your greatest accomplishment?
So, good point. I guess there are 2 of them. Okay. So Space DAO, which I was talking last year, which is decentralized space traffic management. And space, I mean in space, satellites and everything. Yeah. The achievement in that project is that we got a slot on the Google Summer of Code. Mm-hmm. So we had Google providing stipend to one of the students we were mentoring in that project.
Cool.
So we didn't get the money, but the student got the money. So that's the good thing. It's actually
enabled the student.
Yeah, right. It's a young professional, and which I love is that, and you will see that mostly with Parametry people, they all made changes in their lives. Mm-hmm. This guy is called Antoine. You would see it on the web. You see his contributions. They are amazing. He was a former pharmacist. That's a good thing. After COVID, he gave up. I was like, I need to go back to something, more concrete. And he chose computers.
Something more fulfilling.
Yeah, certainly. I don't know. That's a topic we have to discuss with him. But nevertheless, he was interested in blockchain. He was developing blockchain algorithms and smart contracts. And there we go. So we discovered each other, and then now we can't leave each other. So that's good. Yeah. And one accomplishment is that this Google Summer of Code actually pushed the code further. So we have more to share and to show to our users, which are coming soon. And the other achievements that we actually rolled out are on cloud, which is called Celestical. Celestial for the stars and ical for analytical.
Yeah, at first I actually overlooked the second C because I thought you would call it Celestial due to your space background.
I see, yeah.
And then our nice guy here
who reads all the letters.
Exactly. He told me it's called Celestical. And I was, oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
But that's a good, you always try to choose a product name which is easy. Actually, if it's complicated, it's more fun. You make people have a little story of how they discovered it's actually
Celestical. I mean, one might think that ITCS is easy enough, but more than often enough, we see people always misspelling it or also just mispronouncing it.
Yeah.
It's quite funny. We make a game out of it, sort of.
Yeah, certainly there's people who say ITCS.
No, we haven't had that yet.
TICS.
That's mostly ITCS, which is correct, and then ICTS.
ICTS, which sounds like rhythm, like CTS. Yeah,
it's a bit more smoother, but the IT is missing somehow.
Yeah, I mean, this is the great story. Celestical is not straightforward as the name, but when people know it, then they know it for real because they had this effort of actually
seeing the second.
Yeah, they had this effort of actually seeing the letters. So that's the good part. And then this was amazing. So you realize Parametry.ai is actually an AI company. We were trying to sell, and in a minute we were trying to sell AI for space operators. So space operators, one very traditional, conventional area, space operations. And AI is the total opposite. It's very hard. So you have to engage everybody in a transformation. We are too small to do those things at the moment. Nevertheless, it's still things we have in the back. And so we are tackling problems that are really now problems. And the cloud is different. It's very horizontal. So meaning that everybody needs the cloud at some point. And so it's much more easier, much more fun to discuss with a lot of users and, engage them. And then we have users.
It has a direct impact on many people.
Exactly. Many devs, and devs are people we usually like to interact with.
Exactly.
Not salespeople from other companies.
Yeah, that's exactly what we will talk about today.
Okay.
Exactly. So you mentioned that last year we spoke about Space DAO and decentralized governance and that you launched Celestical, your own cloud. So how does these two parts fit together?
Space DAO is a web service in the end. Although it's a decentralized web service, you always need something to be deployed. But I guess the part that fits with the clouds, that Parametry is anyway working for different companies where we have to deploy and deploy again and deploy. And people are like, can we deploy on a private server or private cloud, those kind of things, no problem. This is actually what we know how to do. So we were born for that. So we had servers for more than, personally for more than 10 years, which actually passed to Parametry, the company. And I was like, this is resources. Why don't we use them? And there we go. We were like, okay, let's try. We thought we had roundtables of, we have those resources. What do we do? How do we go from here to actually a cloud that looks like people go on Google Cloud, they click, they got the service. Almost. The UX is not there. But anyway, we needed to be deployed for our own clients. So we had our own cloud. And then from there, we automated and did our own cloud, Celestical.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm also interested in the later on topics where we will talk about some specifics of your cloud service or your cloud system. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and not all the secrets, of course, but yeah.
Sure. Some of them you have to keep. Okay, so what inspired you except your just having resources to go into cloud business?
Yeah, right. So I guess I always loved it first, I'm a kind of computer geek, when people tell me I have an issue with my computer, it's like I feel the challenge, show me. Even if it's Windows and I don't know Windows, I just click on buttons, it works. Or sometimes I get closer to the computer and there's kind of this aura and then the computers get scared and, they react and they solve the problem by themselves. It's the funny stories of IT support, I guess. Nevertheless, I had the chance. I'm super grateful to have the chance to work at the European Space Agency. And when you're there, you have this feeling, at least for me, a feeling of European duty. So I'm working for space, but I'm working for the citizens of Europe, pushing the boundaries of science or helping that happen.
Sure.
So in a way, I was thinking, okay, where do we deploy things that we deploy for the users of Europe and things like that? So kind of pushing that kind of duty for Europe to sovereignty of Europe. And bit by bit, realized that it wasn't all there. ESA is actually made of a lot of engineers, so they have their own cloud, which is super nice. But they still scale up on external clouds, which could be avoided if we had European actors. So at first, this kind of seed in my head was like, okay, why don't I be that actor? That's the thing. Yet, I had some startup experiences, and I didn't want to start from scratch. From scratch meaning without customers. Mm-hmm. So ESA could be a good customer, and actually today it is indirectly. Oh, nice. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you, man. And then I worked at the European Central Bank for another 3 years, and this was actually a big revelation that, all right, it's not an option. We need this European cloud, because then you have things like all your payments at the supermarkets are going through something which is actually hosted somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So this information is super critical economically, and I guess it has to be tackled. So it has to really stay on sovereign ground somehow, so that we actually build independence with everybody, and therefore dependence. So that we have incentives to discuss and stay in peace.
Sure. We will see how you fit into the global market here. And if we speak of cloud, normally one thinks of the big players like AWS from Amazon, Google Cloud, Azure, and also those Chinese big companies. How do you fit? And firstly, how do you compete also with such huge companies?
Yeah, they're big, they're installed. So the advantage they have is that they have an outreach which is amazing. Sure. They say something and then everybody thinks they created it. Like network time protocol, NTP, that's something you can request servers the exact time at the microseconds. Mm-hmm. And AWS is selling that. Well, it's totally free on the internet, but they're selling something called time sync. And I guess if you discuss with the technical people in AWS, they don't even know this is there. So that's another issue with those big players, that they have more than 200 services and they overlap each other. So as a new user, it's impossible to exactly know what you have to do. You have to go through...
You're just overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. Yeah. Oh. So you have to go through trainings. They're actually selling certificates, which is biasing the whole job market. So I guess my core way of competing with that is actually reestablishing the narrative. So meaning saying what is to be cloud native. Cloud native is not speaking the AWS language. It's not talking the Google language or Microsoft Azure language. It's actually talking the container Linux language. It's totally different. It's more fundamental. It's related, but so whenever they do those certifications, you have the container training, and then you have the how to click on my interface. So that was funny. A year ago, while I was prospecting who I could recruit in that domain, so I was going through cloud architects. Please don't hate me, cloud architects. There are plenty of good ones. But the big discovery I made is that they were not system administrators, which I was looking for. Mm-hmm. But for me, I was too naive that cloud architect, somebody who can build the cloud, an architect builds. But actually that didn't happen. So they don't know how to, connect servers together, make them, work together so that they can host services. Mm-hmm. They know how to deploy services, but not host and make the host work. Yeah. So in short, to compete is really to reestablish that narrative for cloud natives, but also we have to be daring people. So I took it the blunt way. So meaning that NASA punchline is dare mighty things, as space engineers, space researchers. So I'm working with space engineers. So that's the other thing. They're not afraid. They're like, okay, we need to do that. Let's do it. So we need to be competitive there. Let's do it. And that's really comforting that people are just moving on like this. Yeah.
Cool. Secondly, who are other European competitors? I mean, it's been some years now, and there are some European competitors, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's not that clear picture, because some of the early European players were some of the best in infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. So you have OVH, which is actually made by Octave Klaba. So this guy lives in France, he's French, and actually built data centers in the world, which were the biggest in Canada, for instance, at the time. That were years 2010s, Mm-hmm. And then they started to recently continue that, but move to also something else, another field, which is actually web services. So how do you, in their verticals, actually provide services which are high level? People can just click and have something on the web. And so they went from infrastructure provider to service providers, but keeping them both together. And I guess this is very complicated. Similarly, you have Scaleways in France that is doing that. Etzner, I guess they're exploring that part. But then you have Ionos, okay. At this moment, then you have a kind of a change of narratives. While the first ones I talked about, they say web services, like the big US players. Those ones, they start to call themselves web hosting, web hoster. It sounds so 90s, to me.
Sure.
But that's very relevant to what people are looking for. I need web hosting. I need a website, so it's web hosting. That makes sense. But people deploy containers now, so it's not really like they make an application, a web app. So that's funny to see that happening. So that's, in a nutshell, the biggest competitors. But also partners, if I talk about OVH, Scaleway, Etzner.
What do you think of, like, for example, Stackit from Schwarz Group?
Oh, yeah. They actually tried to recruit our staff.
They tried to fish.
Yeah, right. So because we have also a narrative of having cheap cloud, but it's not cheap. It's just like cost effective, because cheap has this kind of way of thinking that your service might not work. Like Ionos. Sure. Sorry, I'm trolling. So Ionos is behind Stratos, and I see a lot of people having a WordPress in Stratos. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, but it's too slow. I'm trolling. Can I troll?
Sure. We will see if we will cut it out.
Yeah, this is fun. And then I think it's my responsibility to get better than them. But nevertheless, so Schwarz IT, which is behind Lidl in the end, so they want to play that kind of... billig, how do you say cheap, affordable, Yeah. So we'll see. I haven't seen too much of what they've been working on.
Okay.
But I guess they know we exist.
Sure. I mean, it'll be interesting to see once you get into the realm of finishing your product and getting everything out. And
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so on a global perspective, how do all of those companies compare to you? What are the differences? What makes you distinct or...
Yeah, so of course there's a lot of resemblance, and we have to play resemblance because people are more likely to use something they already know about, like they're already familiar with. But I guess what's being lost in the equation is being human. That's the thing. So being cloud native is, and learning that is actually interacting with human beings, not just recorded videos. So we want to be a bit more human. So we really want to drive this community-based approach where we are talking with devs. Our devs are talking with other devs. We don't have sales people right now, and the more salesy guy we have is actually a space engineer. So you can imagine. And he's actually a wonderful, emotional guy, I would say. So this is really like the key to it. And of course, the rest is classical arguments, I would say. So we are a European company with European partners. I'm very strict with that, so everybody's understanding that. So whenever we look at a service we could use or something external, even if it's just for our backend, it has to be European. So there is nothing that goes anywhere. That's the magic. And we even look at our European partners if they're not using also, a US cloud or anything external to Europe, because this is very important for us. GDPR is just reinforced year to year, and I guess we're about to get a third wave of changes in GDPR. So we're here. We're ready.
Nice.
On that part.
So you mentioned some of those key aspects and those differences. Could you maybe go into a bit more detail and give some more examples?
Oh, yeah.
For example, what are the key differences between European and American marketing styles? You said you had one sales guy that is more like a space engineer.
Yeah, right.
Probably that's a big difference.
When you look at it on LinkedIn or other platforms, Reddit, Stack Overflow, especially LinkedIn, I would say, you see AWS podcast, Google Cloud, YouTube videos. Yeah,
hundreds of podcasts about cloud.
Yeah, exactly. But if you search for Scaleway or OVH, maybe you'll find them. But the thing is that they're not as visible.
Sure.
Yeah. So there might be a bias because those platforms are American. So you want to, as an American platform, maybe, you have the incentives to push the American market. I don't know. That's kind of the conspiracy part of it. But, it always ends up very true. And the thing is that they are mostly different in styles in marketing. So there's this very open way of sharing information, of having a podcast which is live, so you don't control the narratives of whoever is going to contribute. While in European space, there's much more care about what is going to be the narrative, who's going to speak, what are you going to say exactly, and those kind of things. So it's a bit more like strict, and people can feel it. So, and I guess we have to stop this in a way.
So you want to make it a bit more easy, more approachable.
Yeah. So I'm an open source advocate. So I never used Windows, for instance. So you never see a Windows computer at home. That's as strict as that. And the thing is that there's a style, like it's a style of living with the e-world, the electronic world somehow.
Yeah, sure.
So whenever I do a podcast or something, like everybody's free to speak. And when I say that to others, event organizers online, which are more in traditional companies, they're like, "Are you crazy? People are going to just take the microphone." People don't do that.
Yeah.
If you give them the ground, they are very respectful. You give the rules in the beginning, you raise your hand, you get the voice, no problem. There is no problem. And even if people have like conflicting arguments, that's actually perfect. This is, like feeding the discussion.
It makes it more interesting, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Okay, so you mentioned you want to be more community-driven, more from devs to devs. You want to be maybe also dev-focused. How could that approach just benefit the ecosystem?
So people who build web services in the end are developers. So I listen to another podcast, not just Pizza Time.
Which podcast? You can share it.
Yeah, it's YC Combinator. I mean, I don't listen to everything, but there was one about, dev tools. Mm-hmm. The thing is that, if devs are building the cloud services, then we are a dev tool. We help them going online. So we are trying to embrace that. So community-based is actually not an option. So we are starting to go to Reddit, trying to feel the vibe. Stack Overflow. We have actually the Docker community on Element Matrix, where we're answering questions every day, just helping people bluntly about their container issues. That's it. We're not selling Celestical. We're just like helping them. That's it. My name there is not even saying Celestical. So you see, that's the thing. So it's just about getting to be known and those kind of things. And one of the best example I have, and I guess which Scaleway embraced a little, is the people in IT support in Scaleway. So they had the service called Dedibox, so dedicated servers. And you have this guy called Antoine, who was answering all the tickets, fixing all the tickets mostly. You have 2 or 3 guys like answering 30,000 tickets very certainly.
Crazy.
And then they started to have a Twitter account, which was super nice. Like say, I'm here, I'm sleeping. Servers are up, services are green, or whatever. So kind of the news. And this was very human. Like you could talk to the guy.
They are just engaging with the community. Yeah, that's cool.
You could submit the ticket and then on Twitter say, "Hey Antoine, could you have a look? I sent you something." It's like, yeah, I will do. That was super, convenient, but also like very comforting as a user.
Sure.
And I want people who use Celestical to feel the same way. So it's like, I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I know what this is.
I don't have to do this and that certificate in order to understand everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is a big other thing which interests devs is the performance argument, which is less like an issue with mid managers or things like that. So because we build that with space engineers, we used to do AI on satellites, and we're like bringing that AI on the ground so that we're actually 3 times to 10 times more performant. This has a huge effect. So the thing is that we're not just another cloud, we're also trying to be more sustainable. So if we can use less servers to have more performant output, then we actually use less metals, less rare metals, less plastic, everything that we need to build a cloud.
That's nice to hear.
A data center.
I guess that's one key difference that really pushes you to a special point, I guess.
I guess too, yeah. It's like, and I discovered another world, the green software world. There's a Bundesverband in Germany, green software.
Exactly.
You have companies working together in a quite open way, actually. That's super nice. They actually realize that whatever device you're running, if your software is it's going to consume a lot. So the software is actually the key. So if you can make loops, you have to compute things. I always remember this little story where there's this guy from the Space Debris Office in the European Space Agency that comes to see me because we were doing a lot of data science. He said, "Okay, we are like computing all the interactions of Earth orbit with asteroids orbits, so we can see they were in planetary defense. We can see which asteroid comes in, etc. So that's what we're doing. That's the data we have, etc. And he says it takes 1 hour and a half. It's like, what? So I looked at the code. There was a loop which was crazy, looping over looping again. I was like, okay, you can do it differently.
Yeah, that takes a lot.
Yeah. I removed 10 lines. I did 3 lines, and then it took 5 minutes to compute. I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, code efficiency helps a lot. That's sure.
And so if you imagine that at the cloud scale, you, them, everybody is doing like the same thing. And then you have like 1 hour there, 1 hour there. You have thousands of hours, millions of hours that are used for nothing just because the code is not optimized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crazy. That's really, really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you provide an everyday analogy to explain the importance of a European sovereignty in cloud computing?
I guess earlier I talked about, Visa, MasterCard, the payments. Everybody knows that, everybody knows that what it is to pay at the store. So you give your card, and what's happening is that there's a transaction which is recorded by Visa. So Visa knows actually the inflation of the kilo of banana in Germany, in Poland, everywhere. Yeah. So that's the crazy part, because they have all this information.
I recently just saw these statistics. I believe MasterCard and Visa own about 80% of the whole market of credit cards.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's huge, yeah. It's huge. And so that's what you have at the European Central Bank. They're talking about the digital euro. This is especially to tackle that kind of issue. So sovereignty is not just hosting everything here, but it's hosting the intelligence. So because if you give your intelligence to anyone else, then they can control your whole area externally. So your economic area externally.
And you become dependent on them, sort of.
Without knowing. That's the crazy part. Yeah. You will never know. You will never know.
I mean, back then also, I believe the Wirecard scandal was a big part also, where this transaction service hosting company just collapsed and no payments were actually possible.
Oh, yeah. When I was at the European Central Bank, I guess it went public, so I guess I can say it, but there was a big transaction market failure. So just a web service failure. Hosted in a US cloud, I won't name the name. And it fell. So meaning that, it fell. Maybe that was a software issue. I don't know, exactly. In the end, it could be that US cloud that just says, okay, let's reduce the pipes, the network pipes. So you have less transactions per second. So what's happening in Europe, then there's a cascade of consequences. Banks that can't exchange money between each other, so they can't settle your payments. So that's hopefully there are so many intermediaries that the intermediaries actually take the hit. Yeah, and then they make you pay later.
Short fallback onto the AI part.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of the AI in your systems?
Yeah. So we use AI. That's one thing, and we provide computing facilities so people can do their own AI. Okay, so there are two different things. So we use AI on our side, so for orchestration purposes. So the big vision is that at some point we know what you're running as a service. We actually understand your traffic, but not the details of the traffic. We're not inspecting your traffic. We're just knowing that, on Mondays at noon, you have a lot of users. So we can orchestrate your service to be, scaled at the right pace. And that's done with an AI agent that actually understands what's happening, where to put you.
Forecasting, etc.
Exactly. And this agent is actually connected to how much resources you're actually consuming in terms of energy. So what the cluster of computing nodes do we have? It could be better used so that we have less computer heat from the processors, etc., etc. So it's a bit more like the intelligent AI that can actually manage infrastructure from the services to the users, conserving performances, but also reducing consumption and also
energy losses.
Exactly, but also the impact on the local environment. Some data centers use water, so you don't want to heat the water too much.
Yeah, I mean, even I don't know how long ago, but I believe several years ago, there was a big headline that Microsoft first put their servers into the ocean. Back in Iceland, I believe.
Awful, yeah. In the coldest place, and let's warm it up. This is crazy, yeah. So knowing that global warming is coming mostly from the oceans, so it's just verrückt, as we say in German.
Okay, nice. So let's come to the last big topic of our discussion today. How can European clouds position themselves as disruptive forces? How do you try to be disruptive, as you said earlier?
Yeah, right. So I guess it's a realization. So we just started with our users. The most disruptive things is just being there, like you have this support. I guess the support is key, and the community. I guess that's the most disruptive part of it. Of course, our technology. So being performant is actually disruptive in many facets. So for the users, it's faster. For us, it's less resources consumed. For everybody, it's nature conserved. And when I mean it, like in the sense that humans are part of nature. Sure. So because the Earth doesn't care about us, like if we mess it up, it's just going to reboot in millions of years, and we're just going to be not there. So yeah, for us, that's the most disruptive impact we can make. If you think about the 15 to 25 years old right now. I just made little statistics, how much they use Pinterest and Instagram, for instance, I guess together, or just Instagram. And I see them, uploading a video where they walk in the street. Hello, this is me. I'm walking in the street. They're not even talking, actually. And then, boom, they send the video. So it's like megabytes there, and then at the end, gigabytes and then terabytes. So I tried to make the calculation over the population just in Germany, 15-year-old to 25. It's actually, if you had to translate every byte into a character on a book, so 1 byte is a letter in a book, okay? Then you had to build a skyscraper, as big as the crayon here, with books, just built of books, every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Just in Germany?
Just in Germany.
And just the 15 to 25 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that shocked, honestly, because I see it myself, and also just my friends, etc., how much we use those platforms every day. Yeah. But actually, to put those into perspective, that's crazy.
Yeah. And you don't feel responsible really of what's happening in the back. Those books.
Nobody thinks of that.
Yeah, it's electronics, I was in Silicon Valley 2018. We had a dinner, and on the table there was the director of AI of Google, and had this little quiz. Hey, guess how much weight do we bring to the Google Cloud every day? I guess at that point Instagram was still hosted by Google Cloud. Could you guess how much weight do they bring in terms of servers, racks, plastic to hold everything?
How much weight?
Yeah,
every day?
Every day. How much can you lift?
I don't know. I suppose several hundred kilos or tons, probably.
Several hundred kilos or tons, like a few tons. Yeah, it was 18 tons.
18 tons.
In 2018. But it's just scaling up. So today it's even more. So that's 2 big trucks. Okay. So, and I just, whenever I present this, I'll just make, okay, let's imagine half of it is metal. Okay. And when you think about mining metal, when you go to a mine, you realize that they have to move 100 tons of rocks to get 2 tons of metal. Okay. 2%. So that means that in order to get those 10%, they have to move 500 tons of rocks every day. Yeah. Every day. Okay. It's every day across the world. So just that.
That's mind-boggling, yeah.
Yeah. So think about those 15, 25s, if you can grab their phones, why are you taking a picture here? Just call your friend. It's actually cheaper. Yeah, audio is nice. I love the podcast.
Nice. Okay, so what does walking on the moon with expert boots? That was a quote from you that you mentioned to me, symbolize for your vision of innovative cloud computing.
Yeah. So meaning that walking on the moon is mostly there's always a green field or a new way to do things. Okay. With expert boots, you still know how to walk. But then you want to build something that can make you drive faster, fly faster. So I guess for me, this is some sort of metaphor of there are things to do. And we know how to do them, and bringing confidence in people that are in the team, that we know how to do that. So we just need to sort it out and make it happen.
And make it visible.
Make it visible. Yeah, right. Make it visible. The challenge.
But you're on a good track, though.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you.
I'm very much looking forward to more of that. Okay. Do you have anything else to conclude to our topics, content-wise, from Parametry.ai?
Yeah. I mean, we are always on the lookout of new staff, I would say. So do not hesitate to reach out to Parametry.ai. We're on LinkedIn.
You will find that in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is that we have this kind of Parametry Academy we're trying to set up. We have 2 students that are getting out of the academy right now, so successfully getting out. And the
first alumni.
Alumni is the first alumni, exactly. So the thing we realized, working with students is that they have super nice master studies, very dedicated to data science, AI, etc., but they don't know how to build software. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a big hit, they don't know how to use Git or work in groups, sharing versions. And some of them know because they have been very curious about it and they explored that and they taught themselves somehow. But most of them, they don't know this. So software engineering is something that is actually put in parentheses when it's data science or when it's something else. So the academy is actually putting people in data science on real life projects. So we have real life projects, we have open source projects, which actually leads people to actually work on that and take the knowledge wherever they go after. Hopefully they go with Parametry. But that's a big thing I want to share. Like we're open to exchange, our time, mentoring time, to actually you discovering new things and eventually, joining the team. So we take 1 month shots of trying that every 3 or 4 months, depending on our activities. But that's the thing, yeah. And also, one of the last issues that we have actually launched the German region. So it's a marketing trick to say we have servers in Germany. So you will hear AWS or Google Cloud saying we have the German region. Nevertheless, they are entities under US jurisdiction. So which means that whatever they have in US region, it's managed by US. So meaning that they fall under the Cloud Act and everything. But we are European, so that's the good thing. So we have a German region, so do not hesitate to reach out to celestical.eu and we'll make it happen.
Nice. Okay. Just to come to the closing of this podcast, do you have any favorite podcast? You mentioned one early on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was promised myself to look at the exact name. It's The Diary of a CEO. You know this one?
No,
it's actually exceptional. It's mostly they're long, like 2 hours to 3 hours. And actually, you start always like the first 10 minutes and then it has your attention. And more than your attention, it got your consideration. So you actually want to watch the full hours. Another one I mentioned earlier is a series for startups, from the YC Combinator. It's actually nice. I always like Niels Patel in marketing. Actually, when you're a CEO, your main activity is marketing. So strategies and, tips and tricks to be more visible without too much effort. Or too much budget. But those guys are nice. We are kind of the founders of growth hacking, which I really like. So that's, I guess, the main three in the current time I'm listening to.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I will definitely check them out.
Yeah, Diary of a CEO is actually so nice.
Yeah, normally I'm not that into those long podcasts, but somehow I get what you mean, because sometimes they just catch you and then you're into it and just keep on listening.
And you're like, it makes so much sense. And then you can explain your life with what they're saying.
Yeah, there are some podcasts that are very scientific based that I like to hear. For example, from Andrew Huberman or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
They are always like 2 hours plus mostly. And I don't really consume that frequently or often, but sometimes I'm just that interested in one topic and I just keep on listening.
Yeah. The Diary of a CEO and I guess Huberman, actually, I guess the same generation of podcasters, And the neuroscience is fantastic. It touches everybody. Everybody has a brain, and you want to know how this works.
Sure.
And this is so much connected to everything. So, and for me, this is also something I listen to because when I have employees, I want to understand why they lost focus. Myself, I want to understand why I lose focus. They didn't lose motivation, but they're losing focus. So, and I just realized that just before that, we ate something very sugary. So. Then your insulin spikes, and then everything. Yeah. And then you have the drop.
Everybody knows that. Siesta time.
Yeah, right. So drink water.
Nice. Exactly. Cheers. Perfect. Do you have anything else that you want to say personally or whatever to the audience?
To the audience, I know that, whenever you hear like sovereign European cloud sounds so boring.
Yeah, I guess that's just the part of it.
Yeah, but Celestical is made by space engineers, and we're going to make this happen.
Much more interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Felix. Yeah, let's do it.
I love space and I love space tech. And I mean, as maybe some of the listeners know, I am a physics student. So that's something I'm very interested in. So I'm full on your side.
Yeah, very nice. We have early discussions with partners who have computing infrastructure in space. So anything can happen in the future. So stay tuned.
We will see. Okay. Thank you very much for being here. And I had much fun.
Thank you, Felix. Myself too.
See you maybe next year.
Yeah, I will.
If you listeners have any ideas or suggestions for interview partners or some companies that you're interested in, just reach out to us on our social media platforms and we will take a look at that. See you next time.
ITCS Pizza Time Podcast.